Hi viewers, I'm Michelle with Cellar Queen Marketing, and I'm here to introduce beginners to wine. So for my first video, let's start with the most basic of questions. What is wine? Have you ever tried to read a wine basics book and found that there was just too much wine jargon? In many books on wine, even the most beginner, you will run across terms unique to the wine business like terroir, tannin, brix, maceration. The list goes on and on. In many ways, wine has its own language. If you are new to the wine world, even the most basic of wine books may have you looking for the dictionary. Well, you can finally put that dictionary away. It doesn't get more basic than this. So let's talk about the definition of wine. Many books and websites define wine as fermented grape juice, but wine can be made from more than just grapes. When you visit your local wine store, you may see wines made from blueberries, peaches, plums, and apples. You may also see sake, referred to as rice wine, and mead, referred to as honey wine, on your local wine store shelves, not to mention a margarita lover's favorite, agave wine. So wine must be more than fermented grape juice. Wine can actually be made from any fruit. All fruits have naturally occurring yeast, and yeast is a fungus that is essential in converting juice into wine. So wine can be made from a lot of different types of produce, like berries, apples, citrus fruits, melons, tomatoes, cucumbers, chili peppers, and of course grapes. Yes, it does sound like I threw a few vegetables in there, but a lot of the items at the grocery store that we refer to as vegetables are actually fruits. A fruit is defined as the seed-bearing structure of a flowering plant. So if it's a vegetable and it has seeds, from a botanical standpoint, it's not a vegetable, it's a fruit. We just call it a vegetable in culinary terms. So the juice of any fruit can be fermented into wine. Now, alcohol fermentation may sound like one of those terms to have a dictionary on hand for, and there are books and books written on the wine fermentation process. But ultimately, it's chemical reaction where sugar is converted into alcohol by means of natural yeast. And we all know that alcohol is the stuff that gets you intoxicated. We'll dig further into fermentation in another video. So let's talk about agave wine. Agave is not a fruit. It is a flowering plant of the succulent variety. Agave is the plant used to make tequila, and agave wine has a similar flavor. Agave does have naturally occurring yeast, which makes it possible for agave juice to be converted into wine. So agave wine is wine. Technically, any plant with naturally occurring yeast can be used to make wine, but not all of them would taste good. But if you like margaritas, I would definitely give agave wine cocktails a try. So back to our definition. What is wine? Wine is the juice of a fruit or a plant with naturally occurring yeast that has undergone alcohol fermentation. So now we know all fruits and some plants can make wine. So what about rice wine and honey wine? Well, rice wine and honey wine are kind of like koala bears. Sound crazy? Well, hear me out. Koala bears aren't bears, they're marsupials. European settlers in Australia thought they looked like bears, so they called them bears, hence the name koala bear stuck. Rice wine and honey wine are the koala bears of the wine world. They are both called wine because of their similar alcohol content, but they are actually not wine. They are each their own distinct type of alcoholic beverage. Rice does not have naturally occurring yeast, so rice wine isn't wine. And it's made by a very different process. Honey does have naturally occurring yeast, but honey is not a fruit or a plant. So technically, honey wine is not wine. So you may see sake and mead in the wine department at your local store, but they are not actually wines. So now we know rice and honey don't make wine, but wine can be made from any fruit and even some plants. So what's the big deal about grapes? Check out my next video to find out why grapes are so special and the fruit of choice in the wine world. Thank you so much for joining me for my video, Wine, What is Wine? And please join me for my next video, Wine, What's the Big Deal About Grapes? Until then, live well and enjoy wine.